I never thought the humble dishwasher could turn the tables on millionaire chefs. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension, just like my breath caught in my throat. My heart raced like a hummingbird's wings, flapping wildly with every pulse as I stood in the middle of my dimly lit kitchen, my world swirling into chaos. The dishwasher, me innocent little appliance, was more than just metal and wires. It was a portal to something bigger, a monster lurking just below the surface. Everything changed when I discovered what it could do, and I never saw it coming. The kitchen, usually filled with the warm scents of garlic and thyme, now felt like a battleground. Dishes piled high like towers of betrayal, and every clink sent shivers down my spine, echoing past mistakes and choices I wished I could unmake. Growing up, I longed for the day when I could escape that small town where dreams felt like mirages. My mom, so proud yet so overworked, spent every night making dinner for me and my little sister, Anna. The three of us formed a fragile bond, stitched together by shared meals and laughter. Little did I know that those days of family warmth would morph into silent dinners, filled with unspoken words and bitterness after Dad left. When he walked out, so did the sunshine, leaving shadows that danced on the walls. Then came the opportunity. I stumbled into a world of million-dollar cuisines and Michelin stars. Flashes of glitz and glamour pulled me in, like a moth to a flame, but the underlying heat was unbearable. Chefs yelled names like thunder, knives flashed dangerously close, and I was just an apprentice, waiting for my moment to shine. But the atmosphere shifted suddenly. That dishwasher, that unassuming piece of machinery, became the focus of their ire. They spoke about it in whispers, curses lingering like thick smoke. "It can't be trusted, it's a traitor," one chef spat as he slammed a pot down. The others nodded, their eyes widening with fear, as if that tiny contraption held the power to unravel everything they built. I felt my chest tighten. What were they hiding? As I watched them scramble, shedding sweat under the glaring lights, a sense of unease settled deep in my gut. A gnawing thought danced in my mind. Why was I, just a lowly henchman with dreams too big for my boots, the only one who smelled the fear? Suddenly, I was part of a hidden game, the stakes rising to a chilling crescendo. That I grabbed a dish to rinse, my hands trembling as I turned the dial. The machine thrummed to life, almost as if it drew energy from the frantic atmosphere around it. With each swirl of steam, I felt the weight of their glances, the unspoken thoughts pinching the air tighter. What secrets did that tiny appliance hold? But then, the lights above flickered ominously, plunging us into a momentary darkness. When they blinked back on, the room erupted in chaos. The dishwasher made a horrific sound, a grinding, wheezing noise, and flames began to lick at the edges of the kitchen mat. Gasps filled the space, followed by shouts of fear and confusion. As the trainers rushed in, my heart pounded, and not with fear, but with the shocked realization that I had stumbled upon something more. As they scrambled to extinguish the flames, a figure stepped out of the shadows, an enigmatic smile on their lips. Eyes glimmering with mischief, they pointed a finger toward the machine, whispering something that ignited a spark of hope mixed with dread inside me. What if I told you the dishwasher knows secrets it shouldn't? What if it reveals everything? I held my breath, the question hanging heavy in the smoky air. Could I really uncover the truth? Or was this the beginning of my end? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The flames had barely been extinguished when whispers began to circulate like wildfire. I stood there, breathless, as the chaos around me transformed into a charged silence. The shadows shifted, and whether it was the adrenaline or the sheer absurdity of everything, I felt as if I were standing on the precipice of a cliff, teetering perilously close to the edge. The figure who had stepped forward, a thin, tall individual cloaked in an unassuming white coat was scrutinizing me with an intensity that felt unsettling. "You're curious, aren't you?" they asked, a smirk dancing across their lips. It felt as if they could see right through the wall of my carefully constructed bravado that I nodded slowly, my heart thumping loudly, almost drowning out the muffled cries of chefs who were scurrying about, desperately trying to restore order. For a brief flicker of a moment, I felt connected to this mysterious persona. Here we were, standing at the gates of uncharted territory, a hidden world where every dish, every flavor, might yield secrets and betrayals. "What if I told you," they continued, taking a step closer, "that the dishwasher has been a witness to every whisper, every deal made behind closed doors? It's a vault of their sins and ambitions." I couldn't breathe. Each word resonated inside me, awakening an insatiable longing to unearth the truths hidden beneath layers of pretension and artifice. But could I bear the weight of those truths? "What do you know about it?" I managed to stammer, my voice shaky yet filled with an uncontrollable yearning. They chuckled softly, a sound that was laced with both amusement and uncertainty. "More than I should, perhaps. But I can't tell you everything just yet. You'll have to earn it." Before I could grasp the gravity of their words, a voice erupted from the chaos, shattering my focus. "What are you doing? Get away from there." The head chef stood at the entrance, his expression a mixture of rage and disbelief. "You think this is a game? Leave the dishwasher alone." My pulse quickened as the weight of the situation settled like a boulder on my chest. The head chef loomed over me, and I suddenly felt the space between us fill with a heavy, suffocating tension. Was I unraveling this fragile tapestry of lies, or was I simply pulling at the wrong thread? The answer evaded me like smoke slipping through my fingers. Just as I was about to slip back into the crowd, the enigmatic figure grabbed my wrist, their grip firm yet empowering. "Come find me later," they whispered, their voice barely a thread above the cacophony. "You'll want to hear what I have to say." That I in an instant, they vanished into the fray, and the ruckus of the kitchen surged around me. I could feel the eyes of my fellow apprentices on me wondering what I had unraveled, questioning if I was as clueless as I seemed. I took a rapid breath and dove into the blaring chaos, trying to blend back into the background while my mind spun with questions. The night dragged on, punctuated by tense arguments among the chefs and a chorus of pots and pans clattering. They were all trying to piece together what had just happened. None of them seemed to understand how close they had been to losing it all, how fragile their world truly was. After the last dish was scrubbed clean and the kitchen finally calmed, I slipped into the darkened hallway, searching for a flicker of hope in this madness. A thin line of light emerged under a door, and my heart swelled with a mix of dread and excitement. It was the only path forward, a door to the mysteries I yearned to uncover. Gathering my courage, I hesitated before pushing it open, my breath coming in quick bursts. But before I could turn the knob, a voice echoed from within, cutting through my resolve like a knife. "You don't want to know what's on the other side, trust me. Not unless you're ready to face your fears and the truth." Every instinct screamed at me to walk away, but curiosity gripped me like a vice. I couldn't back down now. With a steady hand, I turned the knob and walked through the door, stepping into the unknown. As the door clicked shut behind me, the weight of the darkness pressed in, and I braced myself for whatever truth awaited me on the other side. I had crossed into a world far more complex than I ever imagined. Would I emerge unscathed, or would I find myself tangled in a web of secrets and betrayal? And as I stood there, heart pounding, I knew one thing for certain: I was in way over my head. The room was dimly lit, shadows dancing along the walls like flickering memories refusing to fade. I stepped forward cautiously, the musty scent of old wood and something akin to despair clinging to the air. My senses tingled with a mix of anticipation and fear, every creak of the floorboards beneath my feet amplifying my anxieties. If this was where secrets breathed, I had barged straight into their lair. As my eyes adjusted, I saw the figure from before still cloaked in that disconcerting white coat, leaning against a wall, arms crossed, watching me with an inscrutable expression. "You came," they said, their voice echoing softly against the forlorn silence. The smirk was gone, replaced by an earnestness that unsettled me even further. I had to, I replied, every word heavy with uncertainty. You mentioned, things I needed to understand. The dishwasher, yes, they interrupted, their gaze sharpening. It's not just about dirty plates, you see. The dishwasher is a symbol. A throne of overlooked powers. And you? You're deeper in this than you realize. I clenched my fists, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. What does that even mean? Am I just another pawn in someone else's twisted game? A flicker of sympathy crossed their face. We all are, in one way or another. But those who seek the truth have the potential to rewrite the rules. They turned and gestured to a cluttered table filled with faded photographs and crumpled notes. Look closer. Each piece tells a story. The secrets of this place are tangled in each one. The rise and inevitable fall-off those who think they're untouchable. A deep breath steadied my racing mind as I stepped forward. I picked up a photograph. Smoky kitchen faces turned toward each other, eyes alight with laughter. The juxtaposition of their joy against the stark reality of the kitchen I'd experienced made my chest tighten. These were the same people, yet somehow not. Why show me this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What do you stand to gain? They approached, the intensity in their gaze unwavering. Because I want to dismantle the illusion they've built, brick by brick. You have the chance to uncover the web of lies before it collapses on them on us. Something in their words encouraged a flicker of hope, igniting the embers of rebellion within me. But with the warmth came a chill of doubt. What if they find out? What if I'm buried under the rubble? Then it's a risk worth taking. They moved closer, and for one brief moment, it felt like we shared a secret bond, tethered by a collective sense of righting the wrongs. Think of what might happen to those who are suffering under the weight of others' ambitions. If we don't act, this cycle will continue. Just as I contemplated my next question, a loud bang resonated from the door behind me, followed by furious voices echoing down the hallway. The chef's voice was unmistakable, a storm of rage and wrath directed at someone just out of sight. Panic surged through me, threatening to swallow the embers of courage I had just begun to kindle. Go, the cloaked figure said urgently, extending a hand toward the other exit at the far end of the room. You need to leave. If they find you here, you won't have a chance to make a difference. I hesitated, torn between the urgency of the moment and the thirst for truth that bubbled just beneath the surface. But what's next? How do I just remember this? They interrupted, their voice now low and intense. Truth is a powerful ally, but also a dangerous enemy. Use it wisely. And never trust those who hide behind the facade they create. With that, their figure dissolved into shadows as they pushed me toward the door. I stumbled out, heart racing, the echoes of the kitchen chaos swirling around me like a tempest. The weight of everything I had just learned hung heavily on my shoulders. It felt simultaneously liberating and suffocating. Pushing through the doorway, I was met with panicked chefs scrambling, arms flailing, a swirl of pots and pans crashing together in a discordant symphony of dread. They were on edge, their dreams threatening to unravel with each flicker of the oven flames and the violent clatter of metal against metal. Then I saw him, the head chef, his face stark with fury. Where is he? He shouted, gesturing wildly. I want answers. Who was talking to you? What did you learn? Caught in his unyielding glare, I felt a shiver of fear snake down my spine. It took everything in me not to turn tail and run. Instead, I steadied myself, unwilling to let the knot of vulnerability tighten around my heart. I don't know what you're talking about, I managed to reply, swallowing the truth fiercely. But beneath that bravado simmered the potent seeds of rebellion, the whispers of the dishwasher echoing in my ears. As the clatter of utensils began again, data and deception mixing in the air around us, I took a step forward, determined to not let fear dictate my next move. But just then, the door swung open behind me with a force that stole the air from my lungs. A police officer stood framed in the doorway, their eyes scanning the room like they were hunting for ghosts. Who called us? The officer barked, glancing between the chefs, my heart hammering in tune with the chaos settling in for an unforeseen battle. And in that moment, I understood we had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Secrets were no longer just whispers, they were loose cannons, ready to explode, and I was standing right in the line of fire. The energy in the kitchen intensified, a teetering tower of tension threatening to topple as the officer's presence loomed large. "Who called us?" Their voice cut through the discord like a serrated knife. Shadows shifted as heads turned in tandem, a collective instinct for self-preservation igniting. My heart raced, every chef scanned the room for a plausible excuse, a way to cloak the brewing storm of truth with a veneer of normalcy. Beneath the frantic surface, however, I sensed a pulse of hidden anxieties. Their fear mirrored my own, and we were all entwined in this dangerous dance of deception that I started, my mouth dry, desperate thoughts racing through my mind like wild horses breaking free from the confines of a pen. Should I deflect? Divert attention away from the ominous threats edging closer? Or should I dare to lean into what was bubbling inside me, this newfound sense of purpose and urgency? Before I could fully form a response, the head chef broke free from the group, stepping toward the officer with an air of frantic authority. "It's a misunderstanding, officer. We're just working late." His words dripped with a thick fog of artifice that clung to the atmosphere. "Working late?" The officer raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "In a kitchen that's clearly about to implode from the sound of it." Their gaze found me, narrowed, searching for an inkling of truth hidden beneath my defiance. In a moment of courage that took my breath away, I whispered, almost to myself, "No more lies." My words tumbled into the chaos, soft yet resolute, just enough to pull the attention back to me, igniting a hesitant sense of unity among the crew, as if we were all sharing an unspoken bond now fashioned from a mutual struggle. "What did you say?" The officer leaned closer, their interest shifting like a kite in a sudden gust of wind. "Nothing," I quickly replied, but the tempest of conviction inside me pushed against the walls of my heart. My earlier conversation with the cloaked figure resurfaced, urging me to harness this moment. "No more lies," I repeated, clearer this time, my voice gaining strength as I realized the influence of vulnerability. "We need to talk about what's happening here, not just with the dishes but with everything that's been hidden beneath the surface." Gasps rippled among the chefs, a mix of shock and admiration mingling with fear. This wasn't just a revolt against authority, it was the genesis of awakening, a small crack in the foundation that could expand into something monumental. The head chef whirled around, disbelief etched onto his face. "You don't know what you're saying. There are lines you don't cross in this industry, lines you've drawn," I shot back, emboldened. "To protect a facade that's crumbling beneath your feet. We can't go on like this. People, employees, yes, but also human beings are suffering. The questions are piling up along with the dirty plates. It's time we came clean." In that moment, a flicker of something genuine passed between the chefs. Their gaze shifted, aligning as though some invisible thread tugged them together around me. The overarching fear that had defined their existence began to share space with cautious bravery. Could they, too, find the strength to confront the truth? "I don't believe this," the head chef sneered, but the cracks in his armor were apparent, the veneer of authority increasingly transparent. "You're risking everything." A new voice, softer yet poignant, broke through the tumult. It was Janice, the pastry chef, known more for her delicate confections than her striking words. "But maybe it's time we did risk it," she said, stepping forward despite the trepidation. "If we don't break the silence, we'll crumble under the weight of it all." Looking at her, I realized she was right. We were all contained in a gilded cage of ambition and fear, clinging to illusions built on the backs of shattered dreams. Just as hope began to tether us into something resembling a coalition, the officer's face hardened. "I want to ask again. Who called for assistance?" Their voice turned steely with authority, searching for the truth of the matter nestled among the tense fabric of the moment. Suddenly, a disjointed laugh broke the air, slicing through the seriousness. The clatter of dishes temporarily dulled. From the other side of the room, a figure emerged, clad in a pristine white coat, eyes cold and calculating. It was Mark, the chef who always floated just outside the fray, mastering the game of alliances like a chess master. With a self-satisfied grin, he stepped forward, his demeanor dark like an approaching thunderstorm. "Oh, officer," he drawled, sarcasm dripping from his tongue. "You really should stay for the grand reveal. My stomach plummeted. In that instant, I felt the thread of hope I had clung to for a brief moment begin to unravel, pulled by the malicious intentions of someone who thrived on chaos and deception. My grit faltered, but the sea of chefs behind me began to swell with uncertainty, caught between fear of exposure and the distant beckoning of honesty. As I prepared to respond, the air shifted once more. A dark cloud of realization settled over me. Knew deep down that the path ahead was paved with confrontation, not escape. What had started as a whisper of truth risked becoming a terrifying roar, and with that looming revelation, I felt the very earth tremble beneath us, signaling an inevitable collision between the truth we sought and the tangled web of lies that bound us. The tension in the air was palpable, coursing through my veins like electricity. Mark's sudden intrusion had paved the way for the kind of chaos I had sensed lurking just beneath the surface. I met his icy gaze with a mixture of defiance and dread. The stakes had suddenly escalated beyond my comprehension. "What do you mean, Mark?" I asked, my voice shaking but resolute. The collective gaze of the chefs around me began to tether to my resolve, urging me forward even as my heart felt like I approached a cliff's edge. "Oh, you sweet summer child," he replied mockingly, feigning an innocent charm. "You really think you can just call for honesty in this kitchen? Haven't you figured it out yet?" His smirk deepened as he gestured broadly, encompassing the chaos around us. "This is a witch hunt, darling, and there's no escape. The only question is, who is going to be the witch?" As our eyes locked, I felt time stretching into a thin, elastic string, pulled taut with anticipation. Each chef held their breath, caught in the web of uncertainty that hung heavy in the room. Mark's confident facade masked the truth thrived on our fear, finding joy in the impending unraveling of whatever fragile unity we'd begun constructing. "That I don't want to play games with you, Mark," I replied, channeling every ounce of bravery. "I'm not hiding anymore. This isn't about you and your tricks, it's about all of us." To my surprise, beneath the bravado, I could see the flicker of doubt dancing in the depths of his eyes. The crowd shifted uneasily, sensing a glimmer of hope. Perhaps it was true, honesty was a gamble worth making. "Is it about us?" Mark challenged, his tone laced with bitterness. "Then why do I see you standing alone?" He stepped closer, his voice a conspiratorial whisper, loaded with insinuation. "You think they'll back you when the chips are down? I would hardly bet on it. You're just the dishwasher, and a mere hand's length away from being thrown to the wolves. You may want to check your position before you overstep." The words sliced through me, cold and bitter. For a fleeting moment, vulnerability washed over my skin, threatening to sweep me into an abyss of doubt. Was this entire rebellion an act of naivete? Did I truly think I could withstand the storm alone, like a fragile spark against the tempest? But then, through the rising tide of fear, I felt Janice's gentle hand on my shoulder, soft yet resolute. "Don't listen to him," she whispered, her voice warm, like rays of sunlight piercing through dark clouds. As she stood with renewed determination beside me, I could sense the others rallying quietly behind us, a net of solidarity forming in the dimness. "Imagine a kitchen built on trust," she continued, her eyes brightening with conviction. "Where we aren't just cogs in a machine, but artists creating together. We can't keep pretending everything is fine when it isn't. The aroma of burnt dreams lingers here every day. We deserve more." Surrounding us, whispers of agreement spread like wildfire, igniting courage in those who had felt silenced for so long. The electric current of our emotions danced through each member of the crew, binding us in our shared longing for change. Yet Mark, sensing the shift, narrowed his eyes, losing the upbeat cadence of his earlier demeanor. "You're going to regret this," he hissed, his voice glistening with restrained rage. "Do you think I won't expose you for the fraud you are? All this will come crashing down, and believe me, I won't be the only one to blame." That a faint shiver crawled up my spine, stinging with the realization that Mark possessed the power to shatter the fragile bonds we had just begun to form. In that moment, I could envision the repercussions of our defiancia storm brewing on the horizon, dark and unforgiving. "Let him try." Someone shouted from the back, emboldened by the atmosphere of collective defiance. The chef was met with a chorus of solidarity in agreement. "Let's face whatever ghosts haunt us together," with those words resonating in the air like a clarion call, I felt the weight of anticipation shift once more, transforming what could have been a descent into chaos into something much more profound. "Listen, officer," I called, turning to the authority figure still looming at the edge of the fray, caught off guard by the surge of emotion surrounding us. "You may account laundry lists of rules and regulations, but the real enemy in this kitchen has always been fear itself, and that's what we're ready to tackle together." The officer looked between Mark and me, uncertainty etched on their brow. But before they could respond, a deafening crash rang through the kitchen, reload of shattered dishes, the world imploding around us. As chaos erupted, Mark laughed bitterly as he stepped back, reveling in our disarray. My heart raced as shards of glass and porcelain littered the floor, each piece a representation of the internal turmoil we faced. Then, just when I thought we were about to drown in the wake of our disobedience, the power flickered and plunged us into mournful darkness, a heavy curtain of silence blanketing the tumultuous scuffle. Heart pounding, I reached out, feeling for the hands of my companions in the dark, but the weight of the moment pressed hard against my chest. Would we emerge from this void stronger, or would the fear win? And just when I thought hope could not withstand this darkness, a piercing scream echoed through the kitchen, a sound of pure, unfiltered terror that silenced even Mark's mocking laughter. This time, the fragile thread of courage I had held so tightly began to fray. The scream reverberated through the darkness like a jagged shard, slicing through the anxiety that wrapped around us. I stumbled, disoriented. What had just occurred? An unseen chaos unfurled in the shadowed corners of the room, embodying the very fears that had plagued us in our day-to-day pursuits. The echo hung in the air, a ghostly reminder of the fragility we all carried beneath the surface. "Are you okay?" Janice whispered, her voice wavering as she gripped my hand tightly. I could hear the quiver in her breath as we stood together in the dark, the tension knitting our fate even more closely. "I don't know," I confessed, my heart racing once more. The room was still, yet the silence felt charged with hidden dangers. It was Mark's world, and we were merely players in a game that had twisted beyond any of our control. After what felt like an eternity, the emergency lights flickered on, bathing the kitchen in a dim red hue. Shadows pumped life into the space where fear had previously reigned. It was enough to unearth a moment of clarity. I could see the faces of my comrades tense, fearful, but undeniably united. And then, in the small beam of red light, I caught sight of Mark's face, twisted in an expression I had never anticipated, a rawness, a flash of genuine fear. Maybe for the first time, the veneer of his power began to seem less solid than before. He turned abruptly, eyes darting around as if searching for the source of the scream. "What the hell was that?" he barked, his voice trembling with insecurity, revealing the cracks in his polished facade. "That scream came from the pantry," someone shouted, urgency lacing their words as they moved toward the closed door, now an ominous portal in the dim light. I followed instinctively, driven by a mixture of dread and the desire to protect my newfound comrades. There was power in proximity. We needed to face whatever lay ahead together. As we approached the pantry, I could feel an uneasy energy building within me. "Stay together," I urged, the words spilling out more like a prayer than a command, a plea for our collective safety. Momentarily forgotten in the din was the presence of the officer who had watched from the sidelines. Now, it seemed, they had drawn closer, cautiously keeping a watchful eye, awaiting whatever unexpected disaster might unfold. "Open it on 3, I whispered, my heart hammering as the crowd pressed closer, breath hitching in anticipation. 1, 2, 3, the door swung open, revealing a scene that froze us in our tracks. A terrified sous chef lay on the floor amidst overturned flour sacks and shattered glass jars. Blues and greens from spilled food coloring created an impressionistic mess on the ground, a vibrant tableau of chaos. What happened? I knelt, reaching out instinctively, but the sous chef recoiled, his eyes wide with panic. "It's him, he's here. I swear I saw him," he gasped, trembling. The color drained from his face like a debt coming due. Who did you see?" Mark pressed, stepping forward, irritation flaring beneath his veneer of bravado. The moment was tense, suffocated by the hitch in the sous chef's breath. the one whose name we don't speak. The sous chef choked, panicked laughter mingling with hysterics, the ghost of the kitchen. He's real, Mark. He's really here. A murmur swept through our collectivity, a mixture of shock and disbelief. The ghost, a kitchen urban legend spoken of in hushed tones, a dark figure said to embody every chef's worst fear: failure. It was thought to haunt those who had been discarded or wronged by the ruthless culinary hierarchy. Enough. Mark spat, his composure slipping. This isn't a nursery rhyme. It's just a kitchen. Pull yourself together. But the fear in his voice betrayed him, hanging in the air as a beacon against the backdrop of chaos. Look. Someone cried, fingers trembling toward the back of the pantry, shadowed but unmistakable, a figure obscured and shrouded in darkness, eerily still. Amongst us, warmth and raw vulnerability surged as silent communication raced outward through the room. Fractured, yet we were all bound by this one moment. The unknown had stalked through our lives, uninvited, unrelenting. Then, in a startling twist, the figure began to move, lifting its arms slowly, revealing a slim silhouette that seemed awash in shadows and secrets, cloaked in the remnants of past woes. Is it him? I whispered, heart pounding, my stomach twisting as the figure stepped into the dim red light accentuating their features. No, the sous chef let out a strangled breath. No, it can't be. But it was. The whisper of truth lingered on the calloused lips of the figure that emerged. The ghost had a face, a familiar one: Mark's former mentor, a renowned chef infamous for his tyrannical ways and rumored demise years ago. Your legacy is built on the bones of the broken, the ghostly figure spoke, words echoing through the kitchen like a chilling refrain, and now, the choice lies with you. As his eyes met mine for a fleeting moment, the weight of my previous defiance paled against the hellfire burning in front of me. Would I dive deeper into rebellion, or would I cower beneath the weight of ancestral fears? My heart raced dangerously close to oblivion, the veil of the past lifting to reveal the stark truth that would change everything, both for me and for the future of the kitchen. The tension in the room grew palpable, thick like the flour that now dusted the once sterile tiles of the kitchen floor. My pulse thudded in my ears as I stole glances at the ghostly figure now standing before us, draped in betrayal, whispered fears, and a history that dug deep into our present. The sous chef quivered at my side, his eyes wide with a terror that seemed more contagious than the panic I felt flooding through my veins. Mark, this can't be happening. I stammered, feeling the weight of history tugging against my resolve. The memory of the tyrant who had made countless lives insufferable rose like bile in my throat. How could Mark, the youngest to claim his name in the culinary world, now be staring into the eyes of someone who had once sought to destroy him? Is this some sort of sick joke? Mark's voice trembled, rattling against the fragile confines of his bravado. You're dead. You can't be here. His words hung in the air, trembling with the realization of the undeniable connection to the figure before us. They say when you're cornered by darkness, the past seeks you out, the apparition replied, his voice resonating like old metal against the walls, harsh yet evocative. Your fear, Mark, it's woven into your creations. The pain of those you silence will drown you if you don't face it. Despite my heart's incessant hammering, a flicker of empathy sparked within me. I had heard whispered tales of Mark's mentor deep into the night, as we shared our dreams and aspirations in whispered tones. How could someone so brilliant allow such darkness to follow him? Suddenly, as if pulled by forces beyond my control, I stepped forward, breaking from the safety of our cramped cohort. You don't have to continue living in his shadow, Mark. You're creating your own legacy now. This kitchen is yours. My voice rang with conviction, slicing through the palpable uncertainty. But the ghost only chuckled, a low, dissonant sound that reverberated through the kitchen. Legacy? Perhaps, but at what cost? He turned his gaze to me, piercing and unsettling. Or is that what you want? To step into his world, to be the next one to cage the broken? A hush fell over the kitchen, each face painted in agonized revelation. Energy shifted, the frail fabric of our unity unraveling further. I was diving deeper into trepidation. Why had I elevated this stranger's battle to my own? Don't listen to him. Janice's voice surged forth, desperation swirling like a storm within her eyes. He's trying to break you. Her plea resonated with those who gathered close, a reminder that we were still a team, rooting for one another. Mark, don't forget who you are. Another chef echoed, the urgency in their tone urging him to emerge from the shadows cast by his mentor's ghost. You've turned this kitchen upside down through your passion. You can't let him haunt you like this. For a fleeting moment, the familiar spark ignited in Mark's eyes, something fierce, something unyielding. He took a step forward, fists clenched, embers of defiance flickering at the depths of his soul. But the ghost stood unfazed, his presence draping over Mark like a cloak sewn from regret. You think only defiance is the answer? He challenged, his voice lilting with cruel mirth. Are you so sure you want your choices dictated by emotion? By the tears of the weak? Shut up. I screamed, the fire within me boiling over me, voice carrying the weight of countless burdens I had witnessed. Being vulnerable doesn't mean being weak. It's time to rise, but amidst my raging heart, the room began to shift. A cool draft swept through, snuffing out the flickering hope that had ignited in that small moment of clarity. Suddenly, the emergency lights buzzed, flickering ominously before plunging us into darkness once more, a shroud of panicked memories clinging to our limbs. Silence collapsed over us like a heavy blanket, and I felt a rush of panic disorientation capturing me in its grips. The ghost's existence in this dark and twisted kitchen sent shivers racing down my spine. Cries echoed through the void, intermingling with frantic whispers of confusion. Mark, where are you? Janice gasped, her hands searching frantically through the murky haze. Each heartbeat strummed painfully in my chest like a cruel reminder of what was at stake. A voice broke through the darkness, a plea, a gasp, and then abruptly, nothing. An echo split the air, something heavy shuffling against the floor, knocking over utensils. My gut twisted in a fervor of dread. Someone turn on their phone. I yelled, desperate to dispel the encroaching shadows. Light danced as several cell phones flickered to life, illuminating uncertain faces and trembling hands, yet, as reality twisted and pulled, I locked my eyes into the haunting gaze of the ghost, his expression unreadable, as if unearthing chapters of Mark's past unknown to any of us. Don't you see? The tables are about to turn, he warned, voice lacing ominously. Pulling back from that chilling stare, I turned my attention back to Mark. But just then a shadow loomed larger, embodying a silhouette I hadn't anticipated, woven from unspoken darkness. From the recesses of the kitchen, a familiar figure emerged, another ghost from our splintered past, and I could hardly breathe as realization shot through me like ice. Look who's come to join the party. The words were sharp, slicing through our collective fear like a kitchen knife. My heart thudded as the new figure stepped into the feeble light, drawing every questioning gaze toward them. The swell of unanswered questions only deepened the chasm we had begun to bridge. Our world was shifting, the kitchen plates we were once assuredly balancing threatened to topple, and standing there, like an uninvited specter, was the last person I ever thought would return. Jess, Mark's rival, bolstered by the devastating knowledge I had hoped would remain buried forever. The shock rippled through the kitchen as Jess stepped forward, the shadows cast from the weak phone lights creating an almost ethereal aura around her. The collective gasps were a chorus of disbelief, confusion, and dread. My mind raced, grasping to understand how the very person who once sparked flames of rivalry in Mark's heart could appear now, at the very brink of emotional collapse. Jess, Mark breathed, a mixture of anger and disbelief filtering through his voice. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be gone. Out of your life. She interrupted sharply, every syllable forged in the fires of their tumultuous past. You didn't think I'd let you have the last word, did you? Not when the stakes are this high. Janice echoed, her voice faltering, undulating beneath the weight of Jess' presence. You're in the middle of something fragile, Jess. You can't just barge in here. That's precisely where you're wrong, Jess replied, her eyes locking onto Mark's. This isn't fragile. This is explosive, and we both know how the past has a way of catching up with us. The moment felt charged, electric currents running through the air like a live wire. I glanced at my fellow chefs, their expressions caught between solace and shock. How could we navigate a landscape littered with so much emotional chaos? Why are you doing this? Mark demanded, his voice strained, a raw edge of pain evident beneath his angry facade. What do you think this solves? Maybe it's about clarity, Jess said, stepping closer, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. Or maybe it's about reminding you of the very person you impact, the path you carved in my wake. Open your eyes, Mark. You may think you're left untouched, but you have to confront the real monsters that haunt you. If you look close enough, they're closer than you think. Her words hung heavy over us all, vibrating against the walls of the kitchen that had become our emotional battleground. Somewhere behind her bravado, I sensed a longing for closure, for understanding, as if Jess herself was just as ensnared in this web of the past. Enough. I found myself shouting, desperation flooding my tactics. We don't need to go down this road. Right now, we need to face what is haunting us, not delve into old rivalries that will only put us further at odds. But Jess met me with a smirk edged with bitterness. You think this is merely about rivalry? This is about legacy, choices, and the bleed of destiny. You're all too caught up in trying to shelter Mark from the truth, and it's time he faces it. I'm not his enemy, I'm his reflection. The ghost lingered in silence, its presence stilling the air, bathing us in the darkness of our histories. A strange sense of unity flickered briefly, the realization that none of us were entirely innocent, that we were all participants in a complex dance of collaboration and confrontation. Jess, if you're here to throw mud, I said cautiously, my voice trembling as I tried to navigate this unexpected battlefield, know that it won't work. Mark has built something beautiful out of the remnants of your feud, something worth fighting for. Quarrels like ours should become the stepping stones, not the stumbling blocks. But that's the beauty of chaos, isn't it? Jess countered, her eyes gleaming as she shifted her focus back to Mark. The world pushes us to bend and break. It demands that we choose sides, and yet we forget it offers us the tools to rebuild, to forge a new path. Will you let it consume you, or will you rise from the ashes? The room pulsated with tension as Mark's gaze shifted from Jess to the ghost, and then to each one of us, desperately seeking clarity amidst the emotional storm overtaking him. Confront your shadows, Mark, the ghost murmured, its voice hovering, urging the truth forth. Embrace the fractures within you, for they will ultimately define who you truly become. But before Mark could respond, the lights in the kitchen flickered back on, illuminating the myriad of faces that wore resilience and fear, hope and disillusionment. Yet, the relief dissipated as we all sensed the weight of a truth yet to be unraveled. In that moment, Jess turned abruptly, addressing the ghost with a voice that cut like glass. We both know you've had your chance. We are shaped by our choices, and some choices are made by those who refuse to stand still. The floor beneath us trembled, a tremor that only grew stronger, an omen rising from the depths of that heavy revelation. Suddenly, the ground beneath shifted ominously, the open doors swinging wide as if calling to a tempest. The ghost's presence wafted through us, sweeping away any remaining illusion of certainty. Do you think you can outrun the past? It taunted. It is deeply rooted, and when all things come to the surface, they will reclaim you. Mark's expression ignited with determination, though conflict still lingered as he turned to face both specters of his life, one from the shadows and one now cloaked in uncertainty. I may have been chased by the past, but I will not be defined by it. This kitchen my kitchen's a place for rebirth. And I am ready. As his words resonated through the electric atmosphere, the kitchen trembled anew, the air thickening. Jess' face morphed into an expression of awe and calculation. It was now or never. Would the tremors consume us or deliver us towards something greater? In that split second of charged anticipation, the very foundation beneath us seemed to quake more violently, as if the universe itself was about to unveil a secret, a revelation waiting just at the threshold of chaos, a conclusion neither of us were fully prepared to embrace. And then, just as swiftly, a blinding flash of light tore through the dim corners of our uncertainty, casting stark shadows upon the walls. What in the world? I gasped, holding my breath against the rift expanding before us. In that moment, we all felt it, deep down, a shift that could change everything. Time hung suspended, each heartbeat echoing, as a wisp of darkness seeped through the edges of the light, promising clarity mingled with chaos. And in the tumult of emotions swirling between us, we were about to plunge into the reality that would forever alter our fates, as the trembling ground beneath jostled us into unknown territories, where perhaps, even hope could emerge forged anew from the crucible of our pasts. As the blinding light faded into a soft glow, we stood in a liminal space, teetering on the edge of revelation and the terrifying unknown. The eerie calm that enveloped us carried a weight, heavy with unspoken thoughts and fears. My heart raced, not just from the fear of what lay ahead but from the turmoil swirling between Mark, Jess, and the spirit of the past that still haunted us all. Is this what you wanted? Jess shot back, her voice breaking the fragile silence. To peel back the layers and open old wounds. Is this chaos really a rebirth? No, Mark replied, his voice steadying as he faced her. It's about rebirth, yes. But it's also about understanding and acknowledging the scars we've collected. You don't just erase your history with fire, sometimes you must forge it into something stronger. As he spoke, the tremors of the ground beneath us subsided slightly, revealing an unusual atmosphere of hope, albeit a fleeting one. I could see the slow realization dawning on Mark's face, a glimmer of resolve emerging through the tangled emotional underbrush. Then let's unearth it together, Jess said, her voice softer yet uncertain. Because I didn't come here to destroy you. I thought I could help you see who you are and who you trail behind. Why now? Mark's brow furrowed as he searched her eyes. After everything, what could you possibly offer? There's more at stake than our rivalry, she confessed, her shoulders that once felt so powerful began to slump. What if our battles have overshadowed a truth that binds us? We fought for years, and yet here we are, bound by a history that remains alive, like a monster under the bed. That monster thrives on your anger and resentment, the ghost chimed in softly, its voice like a whispering wind. What if you let those emotions out instead of shrouding them in shadows? Let it out. Jess laughed bitterly, though it carried an edge of vulnerability. Easy for you to say. You're the result of my choices. My anger fed that monster for far too long. For a brief moment, the air felt almost liberating, the tension shifted, and I found myself inching towards the center of it all, trying to weave a fabric of understanding amidst our collective chaos. Everyone has their monsters, I interjected gently, sensing the precarious balance we were grasping. We all walk with our legacies of joy and hurt, of triumph and failure. But we can choose how to climb the mountains they present us. Yet doubt lingered in the air, curling around us like a vine desperate for sunlight. Are we even capable of that? Janice's voice trembled, echoing the heavy uncertainty that surged beneath the flickering lights. Can we defeat what's already deeply rooted in our souls? Mark's eyes locked onto Jess with a fierce intensity. What if we tried? He challenged, the spark of the resilient spirit flickering to life within him. What if we embraced the chaos instead of running from it? After all, isn't it in that very uncertainty that we can discover our true selves? As I stood absorbing the exchange, trying to comprehend the daunting layers our lives consisted of, the air thickened, as if pregnant with possibility. Jess' chest rose and fell, emotions robbing her of breath. It was clear she teetered on the precipice of transformation, yet fear still glinted in her pupils. Suddenly, a soft whirring sparked to life from the back of the kitchen, an absence of sound replaced by an unexpected presence. What appeared almost serendipitous, the humble dishwasher whirred to full speed, aglow with earnestness as if eager to take on the burdens of our messes. We paused, all eyes drawn to the anomaly amidst the chaos. It's just a dishwasher, I said softly, momentarily startled by this anticlimactic interruption, and yet there lay an unintentional invitation in its ordinary functionality. But look at it. It takes the dirty, the neglected, the scraps, and cleans them, transforming them into something new. Exactly. Mark stepped forward, an ethereal glow casting shadows across his resolute form. That's what we have to do. Embrace our mess. We can't wash away the past, but we can redefine it, spin it into something purifying. Jess' eyes widened as she grasped the metaphor, the anger slowly fading as hope crested like a wave. You're saying all of us, we can transform this chaos into clarity? Precisely, I encouraged, heart pounding in unison with Mark's convictions. By tackling one dish at a time, we can forge connections from our struggles and use those experiences to propel forward. In the frail quiet that followed our words, a flicker of solidarity began to emerge around us, the dishwashers humming reminiscent of lives rushing Rivera continual cycle of cleaning, rinsing, and renewal, regardless of the grime it encountered. But just as hope began to weave a delicate tapestry of camaraderie among us, the lights in our kitchen flickered ominously once more. A heavy silence fell, and then the heartbeat of the ground thrummed with violent unpredictability. The ghosts in our dealings felt volatile, alive, their raw forces unshackled and agitated. With an unexpected crash, a glass dish shattered, fragmenting into a billion shards that held the glint of lost moments and fractured memories. What was that? Jess stepped back, her breath hitching as shadows danced along the walls, darkly reminding us that although we aspired to clean the canvas, our past had a way of breaking free. Something is about to change, the ghost replied, the tremor of urgency resonating with every word. Will you face it? Or will you let this opportunity slip away? A chill coursed through my veins, and I felt the tremors re-emerge beneath our feet, an omen that the path ahead would demand even more than a willingness to embrace chaos. We can't backtrack, Mark affirmed, though fatigue etched his face. There's no turning back now, and then it happened. A shimmer, a crack, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling once more, leading us right toward the heart of our unresolved chaos. This was a reckoning, an uninvited trial where the cost of our choices came crashing down. That we stood on the precipice, each of us burdened yet exhilarated by the utter fragility of what lay before us. How could we untangle the depths of our souls, heal, and emerge stronger when the shards of our past were crashing at our feet? Before I could gather my thoughts, a figure emerged, cloaked in shadow and confusion, stepping forth. A voice eerily familiar echoed through the kitchen, "Are you ready for what's to come? Because sometimes, the truth hurts and it also heals." The weight of dread clawed at my insides, a chilling revelation sweeping through me. The past was returning, but did we possess the power to face it, and what consequences would our revelations bring? In the moments that followed, the kitchen transformed into a crucible, a stage for confronting those shadows that had long haunted us. The clatter of dishes seemed to quiet, the ghost's presence shifting to a weight of expectation, a display of all our fears hovering in the air. "Who are you?" I whispered, feeling the tension swell around us with each echoing footstep. The figure stepped closer, and the dim light showed familiar features, amplifying disbelief as my heart sank. "It's time to meet the ghosts of our past," said the familiar voice. It was Thomas, the once famed chef whose legacy had been tainted by scandal, the name mentioned with equal parts reverence and fear. "I'm here to remind you of the choices we made." "Why now?" Mark shouted, his defiance burning brighter than ever, yet underneath it lay fear that he wouldn't measure up to the shadows cast by his mentor. "You've been gone, yes," Thomas admitted, his voice dissolving into a hushed murmur as he focused solely on Mark. "But never truly absent. I became the embodiment of every failure, shame, and regret every aspiring chef fears. I represent the cost of ignoring what truly holds value in this kitchen." "What does that mean?" Janice asked, stepping forward, her shaky hand grasping mine for support. "You think your departure left us unscathed?" Thomas' gaze shifted from Mark to Jess to the rest of us, each face igniting a spark of memories woven into the fabric of the kitchen. "I let ambition blind me. I silenced voices, crushed dreams, and in that madness, I lost everything I cared for, and now, so many of you are on the precipice of repeating that cycle." The weight of his words settled like a tolling bell, and I shifted uneasily. His presence was suffocating yet enlightening, beckoning a reckoning I desperately wanted to shun. "What do I do?" Mark asked, his voice rising in defiance yet tinged with vulnerability. "Do I embrace this darkness? Do I let you sink me like you did with your own?" "No," Thomas replied firmly, stepping closer. "You redefine it. Your legacy is not set in stone, it's molded with each dish you create. You're not bound to me, nor to the mistakes you've inherited." "Ease into honesty," the ghost interjected, as if Thomas' moment sparked a wave of understanding to release the fear that had gripped us all. Jess glanced from Thomas to Mark, uncertainty etched across her features. "Is it too late for us? Can we heal the wounds between us? I was so caught up in wanting to compete to prove myself." Her anguish coursed through the air, mingling with the tension. That's the trap we let ambition and competition devour us. But it's never too late, Thomas answered, his voice steady, resonating with authority. You must come together, confront the past without letting it control you, and forge a new path forward. So how do we start? I asked, stepping into the space he created, yearning to incorporate every ounce of truth into our new reality. How do we transform our weaknesses into strengths, accept the chaos, he urged, his gaze piercing through the turmoil that surrounded us. Bring forth what haunts you, let it cleanse the wounds, and from that healing, you'll find the sanctity of your craft. The dishwasher, nestled silently in the corner, hummed gently, a constant reminder of the mundane transforming into the extraordinary. In that moment, it seemed to beckon us to embrace our mess, our flaws, and our burdens, encouraging us to find meaning in the perhaps ordinary tasks. After all, wasn't cooking about harnessing both chaos and creativity? Let's wash away what no longer serves us, I suggested, heart thrumming at the thought of our transformation. Stand together against our fears. The community of chefs we are now is stronger than the brokenness of our pasts that I am willing to try, Mark replied, his voice steadier and more resolute. But only if we share this journey, uncovered together. Janice stepped forward, resting a hand on Mark's shoulder. Together, let's cook our truths without the fear of judgment. I still have so much anger, Jess confessed, her voice laced with uncertainty but ignited with vulnerability. It's going to take effort to learn to forgive myself and each of you. Forgiveness is the cornerstone of growth, Thomas interjected gently. Shame blocks nourishment, but honesty helps us to root deeper in the soil of a new beginning. As whispers of agreement shared the air, the heaviness lifted slightly, revealing a path forward, one colored with the hope that perhaps, through acceptance and courage, we could redeem not only ourselves but our kitchen alongside its rich culinary legacy. The blare of pots clanging came again in a symphony of preparation. It was time to act. Each chef stepped forth, voices merging with energy, resolved to cleanse the remnants of their struggles. As we rallied around the humble dishwasher, I felt a connection. This appliance had witnessed our journey in all its rawness. Let's offer it our burden, I suggested, my heart racing with courage. Let's lay the ghosts to rest. Stepping into the center beneath the soft glow, I placed my hands against its cool, metal surface. We are so much more than our chaos, I murmured, ready to share not only our fears but our aspirations of rebuilding a kitchen rooted in love, acceptance, and vulnerability. And as each chef joined me, placing their hands against the dishwasher too, the air shimmered with an electric current, a collective push to banish fear and embrace the truths that lay ahead. Letting go of whispers of doubt, I smiled at the motley crew gathered around the machine that had taken on the heavy truths of so many. Together, let's wash this away, I declared, meeting each of their eyes, every face forged in the fire of resilience. As we began to share our hopes, pains, and dreams, the dishwasher hummed to life, the promise of renewal whisking it through the motions of reconciliation. And in that act, I understood, for every dish we scrubbed clean, we would discover the beauty of our synergy, our past etched with nuances layered into every expression that nourished us in this culinary sanctuary. And then, as the fire of ambition surged through us, I found my voice steady with hope, resonating far beyond that die, a powerful echo of love, acceptance, and understanding. Hey race to reimagining our legacy. Hey race to transforming our mess into a masterpiece. Together, we moved forward, the orchestra of dishes rising with laughter and shared dreams, a chorus of hearts reaffirming that we were not alone in this journey. Reconciliation, acceptance, and love would guide us toward new beginnings, breathing life into every creation that emerged from our kitchen, the haunted past now a forge for bright new futures. And that beautiful chaos, we stood strong and united, ready to conquer the futures we carved from the labor of marginalized truths, no longer bound by ghosts but rather transformed into warriors of vulnerability and strength. And finally relinquished into the transformative embrace of the dishwasher's warm glow, we were free to write our stories anew. As the steamy air enveloped us, one single truth clamored above all others, mingling with our shared laughter, embracing every moment with grace. Here we stand, not just to wash our dishes but to wash our souls.